Normally when I'm called to speak behind someone as eloquent as these folk here, I always say, why do you call me after them? But to put things in perspective, I asked a gentleman to do me a flow chart of office workers in the office, and he did it. And I was thinking, well, okay, you put the boss at the top. I was the editor, so I'm thinking I'm supposed to be up there. But he put me at the bottom. And I said, well, why do you have me down there? I'm supposed to be the one that's running things. He said, please, Mr. Lomax, in my country, he was from Cuba, the person whose shoulders everyone stands on is at the bottom. So I said, okay, well, I'm not from Cuba, but it'll take me a minute to understand that. But the reality is that I'm honored to follow these eloquent speakers, to tell the stories that they told. My story is not a complex story. In fact, it's pretty much cut and dry. But I do want to say this. Had it not been, and I'm mentioning this only because it's relevant to what I'm going to say afterward, had it not been for my mother sending me the 23rd Psalm and every letter and every card that she sent me, I would not be standing before you today. Because when I went to prison as a 20-year-old young man, I was very angry. I was very bitter. I challenged the system at every step of the way. And so I probably would not have survived had I not internalized that. And so I stand before you because of those blessings. What gives my life meaning and purpose? When I was released from prison after serving close to 40 years for a crime that I did not commit, the joy and happiness that resonated in my family members, in my friends, gave my life meaning. And the work that we do is purpose-driven because we've helped thousands of people. And I have to believe that I was placed in that environment, in that situation, in order to learn what I needed to learn to do the work that we do. So that gives my life meaning. Well, I should put this in perspective too. When Peter first asked me to be involved with Autumn Leaves, I was like, Peter, I am way too busy. Way too busy. I simply don't have the time. In fact, we just finished up the slideshow earlier this week. So I wasn't here for any of the rehearsals. And so I was pretty much coming from behind. But when I came here last night and listened to him talk about the sequence of events that has unfolded since he originally started putting this program together, I got it. I really got it. So when I think about dying, I don't really think about dying. If it does come into my mind, it is only in the context or in the sense is that I hope that I have been able to fulfill the destiny that I was put here to do. And I say that because there is no, I have to believe in destiny. I have to believe in destiny because there is no other reason why I should have had to suffer that horrible tragedy unless it was to learn the lesson I needed to learn to do the work that we are doing. Now, what I would say to a young person coming behind me, I would say, get as much knowledge as you possibly can. And try to understand that knowledge as best you can. And then start to applying it. When you reach the elder stage, your application of that knowledge and your understanding will be determined as to whether you're wise or not. And you may live to be, I'll be turning 67 next month. And I think through the grace of God, I made it this far because I came through the generation that they say, look, your generation is not going to live past 25. So technically, I'm not even supposed to be here anyway. But I am. So thank God for that. what would I say to a young 21-year-old, or to myself as a young 21-year-old? I wish that there was somebody like myself to say to you, specifically young people, what I'm saying to you today. If I'd had that information, I probably wouldn't have made some of the bad decisions that I made when I was a young person. My profound belief is that you make decisions based on the information that you have. If you don't have good information, you certainly cannot make good decisions. And I would suggest to them, surround themselves by people who can provide them good information. And it may take time before they begin to actually process that good information, because some things were told to me, and I did not realize the significance of them until 10, 15 years later. In fact, I was so rebellious in prison that a gentleman told me, he said, look, you need to learn to be like the willow tree. Because when that strong wind comes, the willow is able to bend with it and then come back up. So you don't have to just rebel against everything that you're confronted with all the time, especially in its extreme sense, which I was doing. He said, right now, you're like that oak tree. And when that strong wind comes along, that oak tree is uprooted. And that strong wind came along and I was uprooted. So I was reborn in a sense as well. I will close by just saying that this experience is certainly unique for me. And what Peter has done has given me a profound sense of where I fit in the grand scheme of things. Now, I've always felt that I knew not everything, Selwyn, but I thought I knew a lot. But he was able to put in perspective. And when I listened to him last night here, and we talked about some of the things that's Tiffany in the room. This young lady brought me back down to earth. Yeah. And when I listened to Peter talk last night about what happened in your life, what happened in your life, and this sister shared with me what happened in her life, you now realize that in the grand scheme of things, we are just all unique individuals. None of us are the same. And we have our own idiosyncrasies that guides us. And I'd like to close by saying thank you for indulging me.